again to another episode of Seeing Sentai. I'm Mars Girl. We're taking a look at Himitsu Sentai Goranger, episodes number 29 to 35. Not too terribly much to build on from last week's episode. I am finally back home and ready to get back and do a ton more work. This also is going to include, aside from the Seeing Sentai episodes, there is a long overdue episode of my request reviews that's going to be covering Kamen Rider Gaim. So, if you are a Tokusatsu fan, which I imagine you are, if you are watching this series, you might be interested in this upcoming episode that reviews Kamen Rider Gaim. So be looking forward to that. Just wanted to mention that before we got too far ahead of things. Really, I kind of want to list off some names of some of the monsters that we looked at this past week, some of the tropes that we've covered, and see how much ground we've covered. The enemies, in order from episodes 29 to 35, have been Door Mask, Mine Mask, Iron Pipe Mask, Large Hatchet Mask, Iron Princess Mask, Blushing Mask, and Steel Mask. And each of them, of course, have been under the leadership of General Temjin. Door Mask was kind of silly. He really just had this enormous hole in his face, and I thought when he was going to open the door in his face that something amazing was going to come out of it, and really that's not the case. He just kind of used it for storage. He wasn't all that cool. Mine Mask had a head that looked like a whole bunch of mines, and he was planting mines all over the country, so he was pretty lethal. Large Hatchet Mask had a large hatchet in his head, and he carried a large hatchet, and he was really good at chopping logs really quickly, although that actually led to his demise. Iron Pipe Mask had a bunch of pipes coming out of his head, and he used those pipes to attach himself to stuff. It got really awkward when he tried to attach his pipe to Yellow's butt, and then threatened to tear another hole in his butt. That was really weird. Iron Princess Mask, I'm not really sure what this one was. It had a very masculine voice coming out of its body, but it really thought that it was beautiful, and it carried an umbrella, and it kept bragging about how beautiful it was. I don't know, I don't entirely understand the theme of that monster, but still not nearly as bad as Boat Ear Mask. Blushing Mask was an android, and I don't understand why it's called Blushing Mask. Some of these names I really assume that there are better puns or sounds that are associated with these names that I'm just not super familiar with. That tends to be the case in the naming of a lot of these monsters, but Blushing Mask was an android. It had these chips in its head. One chip goes bad, and for a while that means that this android becomes friends with Daita. And Daita is really convinced that this android is on his side. And it's kind of sad because as soon as the Black Cross Army comes in and fixes their android for their own nefarious purposes and turns him back against Daita and the Go Rangers, Daita's kind of hurt, and you think, well, maybe he can just fix the busted chip and go back to being friends with the enemy, with the robot android Blushing Mask that he had picked up. But no, just like every other enemy, it has to explode. It's really kind of sad. Kind of depresses me, because I feel like Daita is still not the fully rounded character he could be. Which is funny, because they sure like to treat him like he's fully rounded. Still makes me kind of angry. And finally, with this past episode, we have Steel Mask, who was able to throw steel blades off of his head. He's got this mohawk that's made out of steel. He's got some kind of weapons that are, it's like this double-bladed, two steel blades at the end of a pole, but they're not sticking out this way, they're sticking out this way. It seems kind of awkward and cumbersome to use, like a really not well thought out bat lift. In this most recent episode, General Temjin actually is kind of in a lot of trouble with the Black Cross Führer, who has set him up for execution. And Steel Mask is about to execute him, but just before he does, the Führer gives him one more chance. I'm not really sure why. His plan looked like it could have been executed by anybody and did not require General Temjin to do it, but he's gonna do it anyway, I guess. And it would appear for the next several episodes that Temjin will still be the driving force behind a lot of these upcoming monsters. So we got that much to look forward to. But within this next week of watching episodes, I think we're finally gonna move on from Temjin. He's probably gonna screw up. to the point where they don't need him anymore. He's probably gonna die. Not a whole heck of a lot of character development. Like I said earlier, still a little disappointed with how Daita is portrayed, still as being stupid, still as being the fatty. They recently introduced a talking bird into the restaurant. And that talking bird is kind of annoying because all that bird really tends to do is pick on Daita. Calls him stupid, calls him fat, calls him a glutton, makes fun of him all the time. It's really, really upsetting. He doesn't talk to anybody else. Goranger Storm is constantly getting changed from episode to episode. You heard me talk about that a little bit in my last vlog. And it's just kind of getting stupider and stupider, and there isn't really a reason to change Goranger Storm every time. Like, for example, we've got Large Hatchet Mask, who attacked the Goranger Storm ball. You know, Goranger Storm gets passed from pink to green to yellow to blue to red, and then red kicks this spiked red ball, and it's a mine, and it always explodes. Well, that's the way it normally works. But now, after red kicks it, other stuff happens to it. Like, for example, with Large Hatchet Mask, after red kicks the ball, it turns into a log, and Large Hatchet Mask is like, oh, a log, well, I can cut this log in half, and he cuts it in half, and there's a mine inside, and then boom, and it just explodes. Which, I don't entirely understand why that was any more effective than just throwing a mine at his head, but okay, whatever works. In the case of Steel Mask, in this most recent episode, the Goranger Storm Ball turned into... actually, it didn't turn into anything. Green ended up attaching his boomerang, his Midomerang, attaching the Midomerang to the ball, and then the ball flew into Steel Mask, and then it exploded. I don't really understand how the boomerang made it any more effective than it originally would have been. You can argue just a minute or so earlier before they use that version of Goranger Storm, because they have to use Goranger Storm twice. The first time they give him just a normal Goranger Storm, and Steel Mask actually kind of bounces the ball back, and it just explodes. And I guess attaching the boomerang to it the second time just gave it that much more force. I'm having to kind of make that up because it didn't look like it was going any faster, and the narrator didn't say, attaching the boomerang makes this go blah 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 blah. You know how sometimes older 70s Japanese children's TV shows, they'll just narrate and explain things like you can't figure it out for yourself. And actually right now, I can't figure it out for myself because it just doesn't look like the result was really all that different. There's just really, really dumb changes being made to the Goranger Storm every time, and it doesn't really look like it would have made a difference. It's just weird, and you're sitting there wondering, oh, what's gonna happen next time? Like the time that the ball turned into a mask, and the mask attached itself to the monster's face, and then the monster blew up? It's just doing dumb stuff at this point. So again, not all that much to cover, not all that much additional to talk about. We're getting closer and closer to the halfway point. If you have been watching episodes kind of concurrently with me, and if you are an English viewer, and if you have gone looking for English subtitles, again, I'm not going to tell you where to go to find those, but I will tell you, you're about to run out of English subtitles, no matter where you look. You can definitely find more episodes, but they're not going to be subtitled. So the best thing you can really hope to do is find some episode synopses, or you can follow me on Tumblr at marsgirl.tumblr.com. I will be writing episode synopses as well. I admit that my Japanese is only so good, and so I'm going to be able to get through it. However, I'm probably not going to be as competent as some people who have been creating subtitles out there, so I can give you all the information, but just not as competently perhaps as other people can. But I still have enough room to comment, so this is still going to be fun to kind of keep up with. That's going to do it for now. Probably going to get shorter and shorter as the weeks go on before we hit the next Sentai series. But until then, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'm going to be seeing you guys again next week.